Okay, we'll start streaming, start recording. All right, thanks everyone for coming on this blistery Wednesday, Saturday, December 16th. Let me make sure the stream is off and running. And we're running, we're getting audio. Feedback loop. Off and running. Yep. All righty. Who would like the first question?
So yesterday I took a messages class here.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could text from your iPad,
Mm-hmm.
which I just got anyway. And so you can text either via email or phone number, right? But only if the people have their device set up to take.
Right. So texting via the Messages app on an Apple device, it does a couple of different things. The Apple iMessage protocol will use the Apple ID that a customer registers, which is a free, Apple ID login, and will send encrypted messages through the internet. And with the iMessages, they are, I forget, where's the color? Okay. iMessages are green. No, I'm sorry, blue. iMessages are blue. There we are, a blue message. And those go through the internet and they're encrypted end to end using your Apple ID and their Apple ID at the other end. You can also send text messages through the cellular system if you have an iPhone with a phone number. And so what that does is in your message, I have to change my broadcaster a minute to do the entire screen and not just the window. Turn off the window, turn on the screen. There we are. I wish there was a way to do that without showing everything. So in the Messages app, under Accounts, you tell it which email addresses, which are your Apple IDs, that you want to send messages from and receive messages from. And typically that would be your Apple ID, which is typically an email address. If you also have an iPhone, you can set your iPhone number up in Messages on your iDevice or on your computer. So let me turn that on, and we will switch over to that window. And I'm going to go into Settings on the iPad and then Messages. And under Send and Receive, in addition to the email address based on your Apple ID, I also have a phone number listed from my iPhone. And that will let you send text messages through your phone, because your phone can connect to the cellular voice network to send text messages.
But I don't have an iPhone.
Right. So in that case, you can't send text messages. You can only send iMessages to other Apple devices.
So if I'm sending to somebody that has an Android phone, they're not going to get it?
You can't use the Messages app.
Oh.
So that only sends to Apple devices.
Oh.
And you can tell, I don't know if I have any Android friends. That's the other trick. Do you have any Android friends? So green, that's a terrible projection. It doesn't like the green. The green text is text messages through the cell network. And then blue text is iMessages through the internet.
But I can still send them. They're just going to go a different way.
No, you can't send text messages because you don't have a cellular phone connected to your iPad, an Apple cell phone.
But if I'm sending them to somebody who has an iPhone, it'll go.
Right, any Apple device, it will go.
Okay.
So if you do need to send text messages to non-Apple users, hi there. Can you sign in at the sign-in sheet, please? Just to the right a little bit, just so we have your name. Yep. So there are two. Yeah. One of the so if you do want to send text messages to non-Apple users,
Yeah.
or you actually want to make phone calls on your iPad, you can use the free Google Hangouts app. And so in Google Hangouts, you get a telephone number using the Google Voice service. And that lets you send text messages and make phone calls from your iPad over the internet. So I have that set up on my iPad as well to send text messages. So in the bottom left, the little dialogue flag is for sending text messages, and the little telephone icon is for making phone calls. So that will let you send text messages to non-Apple devices.
Okay, so that's why when I just thought I was going to send a text to my husband on his Android phone, it won't go.
Correct.
And it's in red.
Red. Yep. Red means that's not an Apple device and it can't send it to that.
Oh, okay.
So you need to use a different app to send text messages.
Okay.
And Google Hangouts is free, and you can make phone calls for free with it also. So if you don't have a cell phone handy, in fact, my son uses his iPad for everything. He doesn't have a cell phone because he uses his iPad to make phone calls when he needs to. And most kids today don't do phone calls anyway. It's all messaging.
Right.
There's also the Facebook Messenger app, and that will let you send messages to other Facebook Messenger users, Mac or Windows or iPad or Android. And so a lot of people use Facebook for that purpose as well. So if you do have a Apple iPhone, you can attach that to your iPad and then send text messages from the Messages app. Otherwise, you need to use a separate app like Google Hangouts. There are a bunch of other apps that do texting from the iPad. If you go into the App Store and you search for text messaging, there's a bunch of text now, text free, text me. There's a bunch of different text messaging apps for free. I had Google Hangouts before, and Google Hangouts also does video chats with other Google users as well, and that's free. So that was the easiest thing to just keep using. But there are several other text messaging apps that will let you send texts from your iPad to a non-Apple device.
Now, so can you FaceTime with people who don't have Apple?
No, FaceTime is video chatting, but again, only to Apple devices.
Okay, but is there a way you know, or did you say there was a way you know in your who has Apple and who doesn't?
No, you have to ask them.
Oh, okay.
Or if you try typing their email address in,
Yeah.
if it turns blue, that's an Apple address. If it's red, then it's not an Apple address.
Okay.
For video messaging with other people, you can use Skype or Google Hangouts as well.
Okay.
The main difference is well, if you use Google Hangouts, the other end has to have Hangouts. If you use Skype, the other end has to have Skype. WhatsApp is another very popular messaging app, especially in other countries. There's a billion users in China that use it, like a billion in is that Dr. Cass? One of my customers just walked by. Working out on Hanukkah. No. Yeah, so WhatsApp is also a popular messaging app, especially outside the U.S. Yeah, a lot of people will have Skype. Skype also has the option of making phone calls to telephones, but you pay extra for that. So Skype to Skype is free. Skype to telephone, you pay for. And since Microsoft bought Skype, they haven't killed it yet. So that's very nice. And for a lot of us, we stopped using Skype because Microsoft bought them.
Okay. Go ahead, Ann.
Oh, wait a minute. What happened to my mirror screen here? How much of that did you not see on the projector? I'm mirroring. Oh, here we go. Oh no, it launched Skype on the projector. All right, so I'm gonna switch that back. There we are. Now we're live. All right. So it's kind of neat to be able to send messages without having a phone or without paying for cellular service.
Yeah, because I don't pay. I mean, I just have Wi-Fi only.
Right. Yep. And even with cell phones, not as much anymore, but it used to be you paid per message. It was 25 cents a text to send a text message, and 25 cents a minute to make phone calls. Nowadays, most of the cell plans are unlimited phone calls, unlimited messaging, and you pay per gig for internet services because so many people are using their phones for internet now instead of actually making phone calls. All right, another question?
So how is this set? So if you have a question,
Pretty much, yep.
you don't have like a set lesson or something you're trying to teach.
No, not really. The Wednesday.
To the middle of an answer.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that on soundbite. The Wednesday meeting that we have, second Wednesday of the month at East High, we do have scheduled topics as well as open Q&A. So this past Wednesday, we talked about emulators and virtual machines. People have old people have old programs that they need to run on a new computer, and you can't unless you can, in essence, emulate the old computer. And so one of the guys, Rick that was doing the presentation, he had written some games for the Apple II back in the 90s, and we were able to pull them out and play them on a brand new Mac. Not even an Apple II. So it was kind of fun. We played a little original Pac-Man for Atari. The Internet Archive.org has a bunch of old games, books, old websites. So archive.org is the Internet Archive, and they have lots of old stuff on there for you to find. Old books, games, software, music, websites. They even have an app for archive.org for all the movies and TV shows they've archived over the years. So you want to watch old movies or listen to old time radio shows. Let's see. Let's look for The Shadow. Remember listening to The Shadow on the radio when I was a kid. There it is. No, that was the Shadow operating manual.
So just by going to that website, you can stream content?
Yep. Most of the stuff you find there are old things that have fallen out of copyright, or sometimes it's stuff where they don't know who the copyright owner is. So then in that case, it's in this nebulous gray area. It's technically illegal to copy it because you don't have permission from the copyright owner, but the copyright owner is gone, so you can't get permission. So a lot of people have called that orphanware, stuff that's been orphaned, and being able to listen to some of that stuff is neat. The other one I found recently was CBS Radio Mystery Theater that I listened to when I was a kid, and I remember after I was supposed to have gone to bed. I've got my little transistor radio under the covers and my flashlight, and I'm listening to these scary stories. And all 300 and some episodes, or no, it was like 1,000 episodes, I think it was 300 gigabytes to download the whole thing. And all of those old time radio shows are available.
So did you
Yep.
and listen to them.
I've been going through them a little bit. Yeah, now you can listen to them on the computer, in your easy chair. Yeah. So the first episode was 1974. Um, I still remember listening to an Edgar Allan Poe story in the middle of the night, and well, for a kid, it was like probably 10 p.m. And police siren went screaming by the house and scared me to death. I think it was the Cask of the Amontillado, and he's banging on the wall trying to get out. And yeah, so the archive.org is a great place to find really old stuff, especially if you liked old time radio and old TV shows, old software. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yep. Hmm. Yep. Okay, so question is basically taking photos on the phone and then transferring it to your computer, and if the edits and labeling go with it as well. And the short answer is yes, it does. Um, I found this picture the other day, getting snow in other parts of the country. So I'm thinking this is Alabama because I see signs for Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. Yeah, just a dusting of snow and the whole town shuts down. Um, so it the longer answer is it depends. So here's all my photo library. There are three ways to transfer photos from your device to your computer. Um, in so on the iPhone or on the iPad, if you go to iCloud, you can have your photos. So we go to iCloud and then Photos. You can have your photos automatically streamed from your phone to your computer, and that's the Photo Stream service, and that's completely free, and it will stream the last 1,000 photos between your devices. Photo, yes, settings under iCloud under Photos, and so that sends the last 1,000 photos between your phone and your computer. No. So if you delete it from the iPhone, it does not delete them from the computer if you use Photo Stream. The other option is Photo Library. And Photo Library puts all of your photos on the cloud to sync between your devices. Photo Library takes up cloud space, and you often have to buy additional cloud space for Photo Library. You only get 5 GB of space for free, and 50 gigs is 99 cents a month, which isn't too bad. And I think what's the next step is 200 gigs for $2.99 a month. But most people don't need to see all of their photos on the cloud. The other danger is with Photo Library turned on. If you delete a photo on your phone, it deletes it from the computer because it's syncing all of your photos through the cloud. So for most people, Photo Stream is enough, the last 1,000 photos, and you don't have to pay for storage. And if you delete something one place, it does not delete it other places. And then the third option is the USB cable. You plug a USB cable from the phone into the computer sees it as a camera and imports all the photos manually. Yeah. Photo stream is convenient because it happens automatically. You take a picture and it shows up on your computer a few minutes later. We've seen cases for the good where family's on vacation and someone who got left behind can watch all the pictures show up on the computer. And then we've seen it for bad. Somebody's cheating on their spouse, and the person back home sees the photos show up on the computer. Yes, to your computer. Correct. If you delete them with Photo Stream, it only deletes that one place. I don't see Photo Stream being phased out. Um, some people find Photo Library more convenient because it's all your photos. But I have a 200 or 300 gigabyte photo library. I don't want to pay for all that extra storage. I don't want to have to take the time to upload and download all that storage. And you don't want to fill your iPad with 200 gigs of photos or your iPhone. Even though now you can get a 512 gig phone, you don't necessarily want to pay for that much storage. So Photo Stream was the earlier feature, and then they added Photo Library. I don't see them removing Photo Stream for people that have lower storage on their devices. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Right. Storing and organizing on the phone are getting common. You can use an iPhone or iPad instead of a computer. You don't need to have a computer now. And some people, we're seeing especially younger people, are using their phone as their only computer. So then you would store everything on the computer. They go edited, yes. And it saves everything, yes. You delete it from the phone, it stays on the computer, yes. Well, before we go to that, on the second half of this is on your computer, you also need to turn on Photo Library. I'm sorry, Photo Stream or Photo Library. So I'm going to turn off mirroring here and go back to the computer. So on the computer, under the Apple menu, under System Preferences, under iCloud, and then under Photos, you have the same options, Photo Stream and Photo Library. So you want to have the same options sent on your phone and your computer. So with Photo Stream on, that way, say you take pictures with a physical camera and load the SD card into the computer. Those pictures go into the computer. They'll also go to your phone if you want them to by turning on, if you have that Photo Stream turned on. And that allows you to add pictures to your camera, see them on your phone, add pictures to your phone, see them on the computer. But only the last 1,000 will go. So theoretically, if you take more than 1,000 photos in a day, it may not have synced them all to your computer by the time the end you take that 1,001st photo, you may miss one. And I think that's why they picked 1,000. That's a whole lot of photos to take in a day or two. Yes. Yes. With Photo Stream turned on, they'll also get sent to your phone. Correct. Yep. Right.
That's okay.
No, go
By the
ahead.
way, did you get Howard's response? And I left you a phone message just now because he didn't think he sent it to you. That's okay. That's fine. So ask me
Mhm.
questions. There's a class here you can take about digital photography, and they use these computers and they use Windows, and they use some software which they said is free called Pixeler Express. It's a web-based editing software.
Mhm.
And I'm considering taking the class, and I asked Howard or Carol for me whether that was whether it was appropriate to take that class if your computer is a Mac, not a Windows-based PC. And he said yes, it should be fine. So my question was, does Apple already have something on your phone? I'm not talking about editing it on my phone anymore, like pictures that are
Mhm.
being stored on my computer. Do they have something of their own that would be either better or more compatible than trying to do this, learning how to edit your photos on Pixel or Express?
Okay, so the question is about editing photos on the computer, and the JCC has a class with a program called Pixeler Express. It does look like that program exists for, but it requires Flash, so it's an old program because most websites are not using Flash anymore. But Apple's Photo app that comes with the computer does have a lot of editing features built into it, very similar to the Photos app that comes on the phone. And so the things you've already learned on the phone um, will also work on the computer. Let me find. I don't know. Let me find. All right, here's a shot. And say I want to crop that down a little bit. In the upper right-hand corner, there's an edit button, and that brings up the editing tools. And so I can adjust the brightness and the color, the red eye, the white balance, curves. I am looking for the crop option. Here. Nope, this is the computer. So I can hit the crop button at the top, and now I'm cropping the photo on the computer. So this was our picnic a couple years ago. And I can crop it down. I'm dragging the edges here. And I've cropped it out. So now I've done the edit on the computer. And I can say done, and there we are. I've done the edit on the computer. So the editing tools on the computer are what we often try to call darkroom tools. It's things you used to be able to do in the darkroom. Cropping, adjusting colors, adjusting levels. There's an automatic red eye reduction feature, so you can remove the red eye from people. Um, this was done at night, so we probably don't have any red eye. Let me zoom in. Well, there's maybe a little bit of red eye on there, so I can get the red eye tool, and oh, that's too big. So the size of the circle is the size of your editing option. So I want to make that smaller, so it's just about the size of her eye. And now I can sort of take out the red eye. So you have that darkroom editing type tools on the computer in the Photos app. If you want to do what we call pixel level tools, put someone's head on someone else's body, then you need a different program. Um, Adobe Photoshop is kind of the king of all those programs. It's expensive. It's like, well, it used to be 800 bucks. Now it's $10 a month. They stopped selling it outright. They have a more home user version for $100, Photoshop Express. But there are several free and shareware programs that are really good for um, Mac photo editing. And there's a cool website called alternative2.net. And what this website will let you do is find alternative programs to something, say, like Photoshop, you don't want to pay for. So I'm going to type in Photoshop, and it's going to find me. So here are some Photoshop apps. Here are all alternatives. GIMP is a free image editor that came from the Unix world. Pixelmator and Acorn. Let's see, I want to limit this to Mac somewhere I can do that? Yes. Change the platform to Mac. So it found 115 photo editors as an alternative to Photoshop. And it's still not it's alphabetical. Graphic converter, I've used that for years. That started out as a simple graphic converter. I need to convert a JPEG to a PICT. And then they started adding more and more tools, which is actually how Photoshop started. Tom and John Knoll, working at Lucasfilm, were developing this program to change file formats for the movies they were working on. And they started adding more and more editing tools, and it became Photoshop. So 30 years later, Photoshop is the king of image editors. So yeah, you can do basic photo editing in iPhoto or Photos. That used to be called iPhoto. Oops. Mm-hmm. Yep. Double click on one of the photos to so you're full screen. You have an edit button. There's actually next to that, there's a magic wand that does an auto enhance. So if we find one that's too dark, I probably enhance. There we go. There's a sunset. Let's see what it does there. The auto enhance will try to, didn't do anything. It will try to automatically make the picture look better. Lighten up the darks, darken the too brights, or you can go right into the editing tool and do some. Here's one that's way too dark. So if I hit auto edit, no, so the auto tried but didn't do much. So I'm going to go into edit, and I am going to take the lightness bar and lighten it up a bit. And it's actually working a lot better on screen than it is on the projector. Yeah, you still can't tell what it is on the projector.
The first person to guess what it is.
Yeah. It was a dragon head sculpture that my son did in school. I think there's a better, yeah, here's what it actually looks like. And that was quite a while ago because there's our Nintendo Wii that we never use anymore. So if you have a picture that didn't come out very well or too dark, you have those editing tools to be able to fix it. It helps, but it doesn't have to be, no. He actually won an award for that and got a certificate. Yeah, playing with the editing features. A lot of the concepts are the same. Yep. Yep. I used to teach a Photoshop class for one of the large trading companies, um, and sort of the basics of any photo editing are select something and make a change. And so the first half of the class, it was morning class, so it was 9 to noon. Was here's how you select things. I want to select a little bit. I want to select a lot. I want to deselect a little bit inside a lot. So it was all selecting stuff. And when we broke for lunch, someone came and asked me, well, when are we going to learn how to use Photoshop? You are. Step one, select what you want to change. And knowing how to select everything can be, so say, for example, projector is too dark. Let me get that lighter, where's the lighter? There's the lighter picture. So say I want to select him and put him on a different background. you could tediously draw a little line outlining the entire object, but you have to do it perfectly in one shot, because if you drop the mouse, you lose your selection. Or there's a lot of ways to select things to make changes like that. In fact, one of the tricks is you select the black space on the outside and then invert your selection. So now I have the not black stuff selected, and I can pull them off and put them on another background. Yeah, photos is every edit happens across the entire photo. You can't edit individual pieces of the photo.
It does look pretty colorful from what I see there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 90%. Yeah, about 90% of what average people need for photo editing. And the cameras are so good these days, you often don't need to edit it because the camera got it right the first place. In fact, especially in the later iPhones, HDR used to be an option, high dynamic range. So if you have a bright half of the picture and a dark half of the picture, it will take it with your different ISO stops and merge it together and make one picture where everything is perfect. That's now on and run by default on the newest camera, the newest phones, because the processors are powerful enough. In fact, cell phone cameras have killed the point and shoot camera market, because what you get with your cell phone is so good, you almost don't need the small point and shoot cameras. So now it's the pro cameras that start at $1,000, and even that puts a little run for your money too.
Is this a non-destructive editor? Do you know?
Yes. So any edits you make, do not destroy the original. There's always a revert to original command if you want to get back to the way it started. If you want to see the same picture edited two different ways, then you would make a duplicate somewhere. Where is it? Yeah, duplicate. So if you duplicate the photo, then you can make one changes on one and one changes on the other. So but then you can always revert the changes back to the original.
When you make a change, like when I make a change, not on my PC, I guess it's always you're always saving it. Is that what you're doing on this too? Like you save that one. Plus, I think you maybe still have the original. I don't know if
the Photos app saves automatically every time you do a change. It saves automatically, so you don't have to remember to do it.
But does it get rid of the original?
No, it never gets rid of the original. So like that photo I cropped earlier, I can go back to it and yeah.
What they're doing now, and this is the savior of it all, is the original is never touched, and it saves another file with what you told it to do. So that's how you can go back. Essentially, it puts another little file, which is a text file.
Crop it from this point to this point. It's just as instructions.
It's just a list of commands like you put on a store my commands or do a macro. So your original file always stays there, and that's what was wrong with Photoshop, is when people got in there and started monkeying, it did destructive edits.
Mm-hmm.
And if you repeatedly saved it or whatever, you'd lose resolution.
We'd always say save often so you don't lose your work, but you may want to revert it, so duplicate it so you can revert.
So I think what you do is you click on that one that you cropped, and then you hit edit.
Yeah.
And
There's a revert to original button. So if I hit that, it uncropped it because it knows the original file and just saved a list of what I cropped.
Listen, thank you very much.
Sure.
I have to get home. I will reply. I didn't reply to Howard's.
Oh, that's okay. You don't have to.
One of the things that I ran into
Well, I
was
thought you did get it because I could see
Trip
your
to
name
Hell.
down there.
I was working on my hair on the network, just doing some work, and it come up and it said, "Oh, you got you're due to update to the latest whatever."
And the reason they're using.
And so I saved the work and I said, "Okay, go ahead and do it." And it updated the OS. Well, it crashed terribly, and it kept giving me an error. There was something, on the screen. I would get a string of text,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would just continue in this endless loop. And the research that that I did said something about
But you can send me
incompatible solid state
so yeah,
drive or
once a month.
who knows whatever.
I've seen issues upgrading. Yep, you're welcome. 10.13.2, we've had a lot of people come in with problems where it never finishes the upgrade and either stops at the gray screen or you get that text message and reboots again. Sometime one of the things that we found is that there's an old extension that causes the problems. I've got one in the shop now where I found a tablet driver from 2010 in his computer, so I'm trying to find it. And digging into the Unix layer while it's booting, I'm getting a message that too many corpses have been created.
Okay.
And so we're trying to figure out what the heck is a corpse and why are you creating them?
Well, this got ugly because you try and go through the recovery, and then what it would do is it tried to send you back to, you had to go all the way back to your original OS
Yeah.
to bring that, create a bootable disk,
Mm-hmm.
go through that, and then walk your way back.
Yeah.
And I don't know, here's the deal. The happy ending was I called my son up. He come over, went in and did some horrific reformat of the system.
Yeah.
And
Erase and reinstall from backup.
the latest, which was the update.
Yep.
Which I had a bootable drive, and it's working perfectly. But I say to myself, you know, and I'm reasonably computer savvy. I was at a loss. I mean, I spent days
Yeah.
in this endless loop of bringing down Lion, then bringing down Mountain Lion, then bringing down, you know, whatever the next one was, and the next one was. And
Yeah, you should be able to just do High Sierra and upgrade once. But yeah, we're a little disappointed in Apple because we've seen a lot of these problems lately. Little things that shouldn't happen or that crept through quality control. There was the root login fiasco bug in High Sierra where they accidentally enabled root user with no password. So anyone could walk up to your computer and log in as root with no password. They have to have physical access to your computer, which has its own raft of problems. If someone has physical access to your computer, they can do almost anything they want. Excuse me. But part of that root bug is if you share your computer on the network or have VNC set up to log into your computer remotely from the internet, that root bug worked. So anybody on the internet could log into your computer with the username root and no password. They patched that with before the 10.13.1 patch came out, and then I'm pretty sure they rolled it into the 10.13.2 patch also. But that was just a horrible bug, and how that slipped through the security team and quality control. It's part of it is when you're testing software, you try to do things to make it break. So no one ever thought during testing to try logging in as root because we all know that root's disabled by default. But it's disabled but has no password. So if somehow root gets enabled with no password, anybody can log into your computer and have God privileges to do anything they want. We sometimes joke that root is so powerful it will even delete itself. Because the Mac does a lot of things to prevent you from doing stupid things. You can't trash your system folder. You can't delete applications. But when you're root, you're God. You can do anything, and even something as bad as deleting the operating system.
well, I got to tell you, it made me scared enough that in the MacBook Pro, when it wanted to update, I went back in and did the whatever the trick was about tell me more, and then stopped it.
Yeah,
Okay, and that's where it's at right now. I'm almost afraid to let it update, knowing that what a mess it
yeah.
made of the.
You may want to turn off auto update in system preferences under App Store.
Okay.
There is auto app update and there's auto OS update. You may want to turn off the auto OS update so that it doesn't happen again, doesn't try to install itself again. And we often say don't be first, wait for update. But this was the 10.13.2 update, which should have been okay. So maybe not install it when it first comes out. Wait a week or two and see what see if there's a 10.13.3 that comes out really quickly. And so it's a catch-22 because if you don't load the updates, you're vulnerable to the mistakes and problems. But if you do load the updates, then you might get the new mistakes and the new problems.
I only was concerned, like I said, because those systems are not backed up. The
Right.
desktop is backed up.
And
there's
that,
applications on those, and there's
yeah,
work on those, and you say to yourself, if that goes south on you,
yeah.
this is a big mess.
And that goes back, we kept harping on it on Soundbites today because we have so many people lose data because they don't do a backup. Or they did a backup 6 months ago and forgot about it. So automatic backup with Time Machine to a network hard drive. It used to be good enough. Just you plug a hard drive into your computer. Laptops are trickier. So with a desktop, you plug a hard drive in, and it stays plugged in, and you keep backing up. With laptops, you pick it up and carry it away, and so you may never get back to your desk. Or when you do get back to your desk, you may forget to plug the hard drive back in. So the backup never runs again because you never plugged it back in. After about a week or so, you get a warning message you haven't backed up in a week. I wish it was a little faster than that. And I wish it was a little more continuous than that. If you ignore that first message, it basically never tells you again that you haven't backed up. So you pulled on your Time Machine menu, and your last backup was October 25th, 2014. What? So what we've been doing in our shop is we really are pushing the airport time capsule as a network backup. It's a router, wireless router, so it can replace your existing wireless router. If you have an older router, it's probably N or God forbid G. The older wireless standards are a lot slower and a lot less efficient. The latest wireless AC that Apple and everyone else is using is more efficient, higher power, longer range, and faster. So everything bigger, better, faster. If you haven't upgraded your router in a few years, you probably need a new router. Um, if you're using the wireless router from your internet provider, they're almost always N because they want cheap. They don't care about fast. So upgrading to a new airport router, you get much better wireless, and you get that internal hard drive in the time capsule. So you can tell your computer to back up. In fact, mine is set to do that. It backs up wirelessly over the network to my time capsule, and you don't have to be plugged in anywhere. So it's just wireless on your network. You do have to plug into power because it doesn't want to drain your battery during the backup, and it will automatically back up all your files wirelessly over your network. You don't have to remember to plug the drive in, and it backs up about every hour. So if you forget what you've done, forget to do a backup, it will back up for you, and you don't lose more than an hour's worth of work or so.
If you have an old one floating around, can you update the firmware to get it to a more modern standard?
Yeah, yes and no. You can update the firmware to fix bugs, but you can't upgrade it to the newer wireless. That requires new hardware. But the older airports, you can plug a hard drive into it and make them a time capsule. Um, you just don't get the other benefits of the AC wireless. Up to 1300 megabit for AC. We're connected with N now, so the network here is only N. We're getting 200. So that's the biggest thing with AC is much faster and much longer range. And since you have more bandwidth available, more people in the house can connect to Wi-Fi without it slowing down everybody else. We in the early days, wireless G was 50 megabit, and so you have 5 people connected. Each one only gets 10, which is real. Feels really slow. Although back then we weren't copying very large files at the time. We used to joke in the dial-up modem days, you would download a 100 meg file and it took an hour. Now in the super high-speed internet, we're downloading 100 gig files and it takes an hour. We just want bigger and more stuff. So there, my backup started running, and it can't find my hard drive because it's at home. So it'll try again in an hour, and see if it can back up. And the other nice thing about having a backup drive is it keeps old backups. So you may not realize yet. So you want to have a backup drive in case of catastrophic failure, or an OS upgrade that goes bad. But even for minor problems, you delete a file accidentally that you decide you need back, or you delete it and then a week later realize you need it back. By keeping the old backup files, you can go back in time. That's why they call it time machine. You go back in time to find those files. You may not realize you need that file for 6 months after you delete it. And so the backup program can find that for you.
Is there a size limit to the drive that you can plug in to use in the time machine function?
Yes, 16 exabytes. 16.
So the 8 terabytes
Right.
isn't gonna choke.
So what is that? 16 billion gigabytes.
Somebody just had a great sale on 8 terabyte drives.
Yep.
For like $120 or something.
We were talking about Backblaze on Soundbites. That's an internet-based backup program. So you back up to their servers over the internet. So you should have a backup period. But if there's a fire, flood, theft in your house, you lose your computer, you lose your backup drive sitting right next to it. So having an off-site backup is important, especially for small business owners. So having one way to do it is to have 2 backup drives in your house, and you take one of them away. So you rotate backup drives. That's annoying and tedious. You have to remember to do it. Or you use a cloud backup service. Backblaze, Carbonite are 2 common ones. And so Backblaze has 400 million gigabytes stored. So that's 400 petabytes. But bigger, 27 billion files have been recovered from Backblaze. So that's 27 billion files people thought they had lost, but were able to get back because they had a backup. So we sometimes joke that would you cry if you lost everything on your computer? Would your wife kill you if you lost all the pictures of the baby or the grandbaby?
One of my friends had a fit because her husband put all the photos in iCloud, but I don't know why she had such a fit about it.
There's the other way to do it is you can sync individual things to the cloud. So like Google Drive or even iCloud Drive. You put files on your iCloud Drive, and those files are synced to the cloud. And if you delete if your computer crashes, you can get them back again. But that's an important difference between a backup and a sync. If I delete the file from my computer accidentally or on purpose, it's deleted from the cloud because it synchronizes. Any change you make is synced to the other end. And so synchronize is good, but backup is better. Some people have just a general concern about putting any data on the internet. It's theoretically possible there could be a breach and someone could get your stuff. Apple is one of the few companies that takes privacy and security extremely seriously, and they do a lot to protect data that is on the cloud. Although we have seen, because it's on Apple's server, Apple can get to it if they are served a legal warrant. So there have been issues with that. Howdy. So if you're really concerned that way, you want to encrypt the data before you put it on the internet. And the companies like Backblaze and Carbonite will do that and encrypts it on your computer, then saves it on the internet in its encrypted state. So even with a warrant and even with turning the data over to authorities, they still cannot get into it. And then we run into the Apple versus FBI fights, where the FBI is demanding Apple turn over data that Apple can't because they either don't have it or it's encrypted and they can't break the encryption. And someone, I forget which quote it was, but someone was saying Apple claims they can't decrypt it, like Apple's lying to them, but they claim they can't decrypt it. So they want, so if they put a backdoor in the encryption for law enforcement to get in, the bad guys will find that backdoor and use it too. So it's an interesting fight between. In fact, the same thing happened in the Texas shooting that did in the San Bernardino shooting. The police put the phone in an evidence bag and locked it up for days. If they'd attach the guy's finger to the fingerprint reader. Right then, they'd had access to all the data. So the police have to change their procedures. Yeah.
I have to keep using my finger
Mm-hmm.
to get. I mean, it doesn't go on right away always.
Right.
Sometimes it
And every now and then, even with your fingerprint, it's going to ask for your password to prove that's really you and not someone cut off your thumb. And
I could tell you're dead.
well, there is a thermal issue that it does check on IR signature, so you have to be freshly dead.
If you go down in the pool and get on the pool,
Yep.
put your finger out and won't read it.
There was an issue on the iPhone 10 when it first came out a few weeks ago. When the weather turned, um, people couldn't use their iPhone 10s because the screen digitizer quit reading their fingers because it got too cold. They don't have that problem in California, so that's another. It got past quality control. Apparently, no one outside of California was testing the iPhone 10 in cold weather. So it dipped, on the East Coast. It dipped to below 60. We started getting snow. Excuse me, and people couldn't use their phones. Yeah, that's true. Protection from zombies. So zombies can't get your phone. Now, how about Face ID? It depends on how bad your face becomes when you turn to a zombie. If the Face ID will still work.
Maybe in the morning you couldn't. I wouldn't be able to turn.
Yeah. Yeah. You yourself, when you wake up in the morning, can't unlock your phone. Well, so making a mask, Apple talked about that with Face ID. They brought in Hollywood special effects artists and made masks. And yeah, they have a whole white paper about it to try to make sure that you have to go to extraordinary lengths to break Face ID. There have been a few noticeable weaknesses, I guess. Identical twins, their face is identical to yours, and children. There was a couple of cases where a um, um, kid was able to unlock his mom's phone because children's faces haven't finished, developing yet, and there was enough of a similarity. You hear about, the kid looks just like mom. The kid was able to unlock the phone. Now here's one from Tech Worm about a Chinese woman. Apple refunded her iPhone 10 after she used a mask to unlock her phone. So I don't know. See, if you buy the phone just because it has Face ID, that's kind of stupid to begin with. But we've already heard Steve Gibson on the security podcast I listened to. He's getting an iPhone 10, but he's not going to turn Face ID on. He's going to leave it with passcode because he is concerned about that. With Face ID, someone could grab your phone and hold it up to your face and get into your phone. So he's just not going to use Face ID. We've heard, back to the police. We've heard stories about police will wait until a suspect gets a phone call, or they'll call the suspect. So when the suspect unlocks the phone to make the call, then the cops jump him, grab the phone before it locks again. So they don't have to worry with the whole passcode thing.
Well, I applaud Apple for being hanging tough. It's baloney about backdoors and messing with things. But
Yeah.
say, our policy is.
Yep. Well, and especially with the FBI deal, the thing is, well, we'll keep it safe. No, you can't. Look at all the exploits, the NSA leaks, the CIA leaks, FBI leaks. With the best intentions, you cannot keep your data safe, and it's almost bad enough that Apple is keeping your data safe. Fortunately, there haven't been any breaches there, but I hate to say it's only a matter of time, but it kind of is. Somewhere there'll be a disgruntled employee. Somewhere there'll be a mistake. There was a bug a few years ago. You might remember the celebrity nude scandals, where a lot of celebrities had their had their nude pictures published on the internet because they were part of their iCloud backup, and someone figured out how to download the iCloud backup. So normally you log in with, you're restoring your phone, and you log in with your Apple ID and password and say restore from iCloud. So that it downloads this blob of encrypted data and decrypts it with your password. Some bad guy figured out how to download those files first, basically, and then we're able to break into the account either by guessing the password, or other social engineering means. There was an interesting case where who was Paris Hilton. The password was her dog's name. So of course that's the first thing you're going to try if you're trying to break into Paris Hilton's phone is the dog's name, because the dog was so big for her. And so a lot of celebrities got their phone backup data and their naughty pictures taken. So my thought is, don't put naughty pictures on your phone. So Facebook, there's a thing called revenge porn, where a couple breaks up and the person who feels wronged will upload all the dirty pictures they have of the other person. So that goes back to don't put dirty pictures on your phone. Don't send naked pictures of yourself to your spouse. So when you break up, they upload it, and so it's become called revenge porn. So Facebook had a solution for revenge porn. You send them a naked picture of yourself, and then they'll watch for that in the Facebook streams. So their solution for people uploading naked pictures of you was for you to upload it yourself. Yeah, that didn't work.
Can I ask you a quick
Sure.
question, which you already discussed like last year, but I didn't have an iPad, and it has to do with mail
Mm-hmm.
and hover and secure, like security, like
Yeah.
it was you could hover, you said, over.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Over a link. So here's a fake.
on my iPad.
It's a little different on the iPad.
Okay.
We'll do that one next. So here's a fake email. I've been collecting these fake emails. So the emails are getting better and better. This was actually from 2016. Do I have a new one? Yeah, this one's pretty good. It looks like it comes from Apple. There's a problem with your account, and they want you to click on the link to verify your account. A couple of things tell me this is fake. One is it came from some weird address. I have no idea who that is, but it's obviously not apple.com. So you can spoof the sender address. They didn't even bother doing that. It would take 3 seconds to spoof the sender address. So it looked like it was sent from apple.com. They didn't even bother. They figured they'll catch enough people, they don't even need to bother. But if I hover, and so down here at the bottom, that looks kind of real, but they didn't even bother changing their address. Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, that's not Apple.
But does this have to do with? I guess I'm thinking about you supposedly get an email from somebody you know.
Right. So like this came from, it might have, yeah.
Okay, so a person.
Right, a person, a company. Or here's one from Irving Tucker. Now this was actually an HTML file that had a virus in it. Let me go back to this Apple one. So here it says, click here to verify your account. If I point to that link without clicking, so which is called hover over that link, it's telling me where that link is really going to go. So that's a Twitter short URL, t.co. So that should be going to apple.com. Operating system is Linux. No, I'm running Mac OS. So there's a lot of red flags on this message. But if you glance at it quickly enough and oh my God, someone broke into my account, and click the link, you get sent to the fake website, and they can steal your stuff. I've got a bunch of here. Lauren, here's a scan. Download that and open it. And my Amazon account was suspended, and again, they didn't even bother masking their address. But I point to that, and it's not going to Amazon. So this is a good one, because if you look at it, it says you're going to Amazon. But if you point to it and hover, you're not going to Amazon. Moretta.com. Whoever Moretta.com is, they're domain is being hijacked. So let me switch over to the iPad. It's a little bit different on the iPad, but it works the same way. And I'll go to my email program. I don't, let's see, I'm not sure if I have any fake ones on here.
But even if it's, but still, even if it's just a name, just not fake.
Yeah. So you don't know who it's really from. So this says it's from iHeartRadio. If I tap on that, tap and hold at the top, it says from iHeartRadio.
Okay, yeah.
If I tap on that, it shows me who it's really from.
If you tap on,
Tap on the address.
well, see,
So at the top where it says from iHeartRadio, I tap on the,
mine just shows the name of the person.
right. If you tap on it, it will bring up a window and show you who it's really from.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, so I'll go to here. So I just tap
So
on
under
the,
from, tap on the name, or tap on not right on the name itself. Tap and hold maybe. And now, all right, now let go. So when it so tap and hold,
so tap and hold.
tap and hold, and then
Okay.
when it highlighted in blue, then it pops up and shows you
Mm.
where it's really coming from.
All right.
So in this case, I can see it is really coming from iHeartRadio.com.
Unless they spoofed it.
Right, unless they spoofed it. But it's a little harder to spoof it here. And then the other, let me find a link. So here's some links. If I tap and hold on a link, it gives me the address. Yeah.
Okay, so tapping and holding will show it without sending you there.
Correct. It's like pointing and not clicking on the computer. On the iPad, you do tap and hold. Now, this is a marketing message, and so that's what all that gibberish is. Part of what marketing messages do is they track who opens it. So they know when you read the message, they know if you open the message, they know where you clicked on the message, so they can market their next message better. Excuse me. But I can tell it's coming from mail.iheartradio.com and then all that extra stuff. Now, marketing messages may not come from who you think it comes from. uh, um, MailChimp. We use MailChimp at our office. And what's the other big one? Constant Contact. There are several commercial email services that are designed for mass emailing, usually used by companies who want to send out 10,000 legitimate emails. So if I click and hold on that, let me see if there's one from Slew here. I click and hold, it may not come from whoever I think it's coming from, because it might say Constant Contact, or it might say MailChimp. It might be one of the mass marketing companies. But that can be better in some respects. Let me click on that. Because, all right, so this came from listmanage.com, but it's part of Slew. It can almost be
Safe to open anyway,
probably, because the bad guys wouldn't be able to open a Constant Contact account and keep it running very long before somebody complained that they were sending out spam. So using one of the legitimate commercial services, but you don't know what the legitimate commercial services are. I happen to know Constant Contact is one, MailChimp is one, list-manage.com, I don't know who that is. But I know that Slew is good, so I'm inferring that List Manage is good.
I just clicked on a message that I know gets sent from Constant Contact,
Mm-hmm.
and it showed who sent it. Showed
Yep.
Windsor Cottage, which is where it's. Okay. All right. Well, I'll look at that.
And sort of the bottom line is if you're suspicious of a message, just delete it. And then if it claims to come from someone you know, send them a message. Did you really send me this email?
Yeah, right.
If you are using your iPad and you click on something that's troublesome,
Mm-hmm.
are you safer than if you were doing it on your notebook or your machine?
You are a little safer clicking links on your iPad than you are on computer. Um, because there's no viruses for the iPad, but there are fake virus warnings and there are fake login pages. So for in this example, if I didn't know what SLU was and I clicked on the link, it just takes me to a website. But for example, that fake Apple message I had on the computer, if I did that on the iPad, I would still be going to a fake website and giving them my real credentials. So,
But they could not have downloaded code to your machine that would reside there after you turn it off.
right, it wouldn't reside there after you turn it off, but email can contain code. So it's less dangerous, but it's still dangerous, especially if you type something, they can see what you're typing. Even on the iPad, because that's the way code works.
Okay,
But the
clicking on the link would not be, if you don't provide them additional data, if you clicked on the link, you could go to a malicious site, but it would not be the same as you going to the malicious site with your computer.
yes, in that they couldn't install additional bad software on your iPad.
Okay. That's the distinction.
Right.
Is that the iPad itself, even if you went to that site, there's nothing they could put on your system, on your iPad permanently, where if they got an access to your desktop, they could inject a ton of bad things.
Right. But one of the things they could do, and I get this, so I read this Not Always Right website about crazy customer stories, and very frequently I will get fake pop-up windows. I've won a gift card from Amazon, and if I click the link, it will ask me to put in my information. You can get a fake message saying you're infected with a virus. Click here to download our antivirus. And in that case, since you instigated the download, then yes, you could be infected by it. So you could download a malicious program, but you are instigating it, so it's technically your fault.
If you turned off your machine at that point, we're still at the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
If you turned off the iPad or rebooted the iPad, that gets you out of that mess. That's the only way you got out of it, because if you click on anything, even if they've relabeled what you're clicking on,
Right.
you could get yourself in a world of hurt.
You can't. Yes. With caveats.
Okay.
The iPad tries to be nice to you, and when you open Safari again, it tries to reopen all those pages you had open last time. So it'll reopen the malicious page. So what I am able to do, I haven't found one that hasn't worked yet, but it's only a matter of time. I can hit the little X in the tab window. So where I can point. So it's the little X. I don't want to close this because I read these all the time. I hit the X, it closes that window. So if you just quit Safari or just reboot the iPad, that window opens up again. So in order to clear that out, if you can't click the X to close the tab, if you go to settings, you can clear your Safari history and cache, which is something you may want to do now and then anyway. In settings under Safari, and then somewhere down in here is clear history and website data. So then that will clear the history of you going to the malicious page, so that when you open Safari again, it won't be there again. And the way it works is it's basically just an ad. And the bad guys have now figured out they can buy ads that automatically go into web pages, because there's very little human interaction with putting ads on web pages. And you get an ad for something bad, and it just pops up. Usually happens every fifth or 10th page. And I like this website, so I put up with it. All the crazy stories about what people expect of retail. In fact, we had one last week. Every time I read one of these horrible stories about people doing really stupid things I can't believe, we have one at our store. We had one last week where a guy came in 5 minutes before closing with a problem with his phone, and most of the phone issues we have to send to Apple. So he he left his wife and adult daughter in our store to run to the mall. I said, well, sir, we closed 5 minutes ago. Oh, I won't be long. I won't be long. 2 hours later, he comes back.
Oh my God.
And so the clerk had to stay out on the floor babysitting these people. They couldn't get any work done because you have to stay with the customer. So stay and chatting with the customer. Um, and that was very frustrating. And I hear that a lot. People, 5 minutes before closing, I want my groceries now. Well, I'm sorry, sir, we're closed. Too bad. I'm coming in. I'm sorry, sir, we're closed. Or I hear about restaurants all the time that try. That happened to me a couple of times in the restaurant I worked at. Um, we close at 11, and 11:30, midnight. Trying, we're closed, we're closed. At one time, we finally told the waitresses, just go out and vacuum, and vacuum around them. Maybe they'll get the hint it's time to close. So the waitresses had to stay because they couldn't finish closing the restaurant. The cooks had to stay because we couldn't close the kitchen. We shut all the ovens off. So if they tried to order something else, we couldn't give them. The manager had to stay to close the register out. And finally, like an hour and a half after we closed, oh, you're closed? Why didn't you tell us? We've been telling you for two bloody hours we're closed. I'm surprised now that I want to show one of those pop-ups, it won't pop up. And the other thing it does is it spawns like 50 pages. So you try to hit your back arrow. So one of the tips on the iPad, the back arrow will take you to the last page you came from. If you tap and hold on that back arrow, it brings up the whole history of all the pages you've been on. So one of these malicious ads come up, it'll spawn 50 pages. So you can't hit the back arrow to find the page you came from because it's long scrolled off your history. So you have to end up closing that tab and starting over again.
There's no way to take Safari from being the browser that
Default browser, no. So right now in the OS, Safari is your default browser. You can install Firefox or Chrome, but you can't make it default, so you have to open it yourself. In fact, I've got Chrome installed and use it for a few things. But if I'm in an email and I click a link, it's going to open Safari. You can't change your default browser. Ironically, one of Apple's websites didn't work very well in Safari, and I had to use Chrome all the time. iOS 11, it works better.
When after you've visited a few websites on your iPad or whatever, and then you're supposed to clear these things periodically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there, so I didn't realize that until I took this class yesterday and someone noticed it. She said, you should swipe all these things out.
Yeah,
Do you have to swipe them individually, or is there a way to do them all at once, like clear all?
Yeah, you can do several at a time. But when you hit the home button, basically, to get out of an app, the app never really closes. It stays back there waiting for you to go back to it as a convenience, so it opens faster. Um, Eventually, you can get so many apps running that you run out of memory or something else won't work. And so it's every now and then as a troubleshooting method, you just quit all your open apps. Um, so prior to OS 11, you would double tap the home button to bring up this task switcher. With OS 11, you swipe up from the bottom. So this is also called the task switcher. So if I want to jump to another app, let's jump back to App Store. I can jump quickly from one app to another app. So I'll swipe up from the bottom. Let me go back to messages. So I can jump between apps by using that feature also because it shows me all the recently opened apps. In order to quit all of those apps, you do need to swipe them up to quit them. You don't have to do them one at a time. You can do as many as you can see on screen. So I'm pretty good at 4. So I'm going to do with two fingers each. I'm going to do 4 at once. I can do 4 at once. If I was really good, I could do 6 at once because I can see 6 windows. But yeah, so there's nothing that says all.
But I mean, it's interesting because I don't go back there to, I just click on the app again,
Yep.
So I could be clicking on Safari.
Aren't they truly running in the background and consuming power?
They're not running in the background. They're paused in the background, waiting for you to come back to them. Some apps will keep running in the background. Skype will keep running in the background, waiting for the phone to ring. And there's been a big problem with Skype draining your battery because it's running in the background. Facebook had a terrible problem a couple of versions ago. It's running in the background, waiting for a new post to come in. So the apps can run in the background, but generally they don't.
So they are in a pause mode.
Yep.
It's just a convenience for you.
Right. But they do take up a little bit of memory. And so that's what can happen. I have trouble with some of the games I play. It tells me it's run out of memory and to quit all my other apps. That's usually what the problem becomes, is it runs out of memory.
What about like having a lot of website tabs open? Does that?
Having a lot of tabs open can also eat up your memory. One of the things that happen, and lost my my tab, so here we go. One of the things that happens many times is when you click a link on a website, it opens that website in a new tab instead of opening it in the same window you're already in. And that's become a convenience, so then you can go back to that window without hitting the back button too many times. You have multiple windows open. So you might see on the top of my list, I've got a bunch of different tabs open. And I've got one for some of the TV shows I watch, the Bad Astronomy. So some of the tabs I keep open frequently. There's oh, it's gone. Somebody bought the Super Cub I was looking at. So each tab you have open uses a little bit of memory as well. Now you notice when I hit one of these tabs, it reloads the web page, so it's not storing everything in the tab. It stores the link. So we've seen cases where people have never closed their tabs. We had one lady the other day that had 500 tabs open, and that she brought it in because it was running really slow.
On her iPad or
on her iPad.
So we were talking the other day in a Windows 10 class about apps and about airline tickets. Like if you're searching for a flight,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I don't know,
Yeah.
guess I close out of American Airlines usually, and then go to United or.
It's kind of nice to keep your search window open, and so you open American in another window, and then you open Delta in another window, so you can see the two windows, and your search window is still open, so you can go back to it easy.
And then you don't lose like some
Right.
flight you found 5 minutes ago.
But then that's easy to end up with 5, 10, 20 tabs open.
Yeah, but but then if you close them all.
Right, if you close them all. Some people never close their tabs. They haven't known there are tabs. And the more tabs you have open, the slower things get. And at 500 tabs, it's really slow. So you tap on the little X to close that tab. Or if I tap, let me go to this one. If I tap and hold on the X, let's see. No, well, if I tap and hold, and then I can drag the tab around. No, I'm sorry. That's only on the computer. If you click and hold or right click on a tab, there's a close all except this tab. And in the iPad, in the upper right corner is the two little screen icons. That will show you all of your tabs in a little thumbnail view. And then here is where it should be. Tap and hold. I'm looking for a close all but this one, which is not doing what I think it should do. So let's go to a new tab and search for it. iPad, close all, lose all tabs. That might have found what I wanted. Close all tabs. tap the X. Yes, we know. But how do you close all but that one? Or just close all complete? Oh, you tap on that thing. There we go. There it is. So tap and hold on the tab viewer. And you can close one tab or you can close all open tabs. Now I've got an iPad Pro and there's a feature called Split View where it actually shows you two websites side by side in split view. So one of the advantages of the iPad in the beginning was it was one app at a time. And so you let you concentrate on that one app. People want to do multitasking now. So they've been adding more multitasking views so you can have split view to have two things open. I can bring up another app. So now I have another app. Oops, what did I do? I lost my mirroring. Tap and hold on the tab icon, the tab view icon, which is now gone because I'm already in split view. So I'm going to close that tab. So in the upper right corner, you've got your tab view icon. The very upper right, the two screens on top of each other. Normally, if you just tap that, it shows you all your open tabs. If you tap and hold, then you have the option of closing tabs or moving into split view. No, the iPad, only the iPad Pro can do split view. Let's see. Yeah, go in.
I just was getting another thing up here. Well, I don't know if this is. All right, so now.
All right, so, yeah, go back home
back
and go into
like
Safari.
this.
Okay, yeah. And now you can use four fingers to close four at once.
What are you talking about?
Oh, go into Safari.
Oh, go into Safari, which is
the blue compass. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then
here.
in the upper corner is so you've got a lot of tabs open. So in this double square in the upper corner. So if you tap on that, it will show you all the tabs you have open. So you've got a lot of tabs open.
See, and it's sometimes this has probably popped up, and I don't even know how I got
they spawn themselves sometimes.
Okay.
So you can tap the little X to close each tab.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you tap and hold on that little square, now you can close all the tabs.
That you didn't even realize you had open, because I thought I only had the 4.
Yep.
Because I got rid of all the other ones. Okay.
And then you also have the option. Now, is this a Pro or standard?
No.
Oh, so that they've added split view to the standard iPad now.
Oh, look at that.
So you can have two windows side by side rather than just two tabs where you only see one at a time.
Yeah, somebody was trying to show us in Gmail how you can, not in Gmail, in Windows 10 how you can have that. I can't get it. She swears by it. And see, I just am not used to. I'm one of the ones who closes out. Minimizes it, I should say. I'm minimizing it back and forth. Oh, that's good to know.
So there are cases when it's convenient to have multiple windows open.
Talk about is it AirPlay or?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even.
Okay.
What is it? How does it work? And how would you take advantage of it?
AirPlay is a technology from Apple that initially allows you to play audio remotely to a remote device, an AirPlay capable device. So the early intent was that you had a speaker in your room and you would play the music from your phone wirelessly to that speaker. The Apple AirPort Express has a speaker jack on it that will make any speaker AirPlay compatible. So if you don't have to buy special speakers, and in the early intent was you plug that into your stereo that you probably have at home. People don't have stereos anymore. You plug it into your stereo, and then you can send the music from your computer or your iDevice to your stereo. They extended AirPlay to do video with the Apple TV. So that will do audio and video. So you're sending the audio and video from your device to another device over the air. So you're playing video over the air. And what that lets you do is take movies or photos or whatnot you have on your iPad and show them on your Apple TV. I'm running software on my Mac that mimics an Apple TV. So my iPad thinks it's an Apple TV. So that's how I'm showing my iPad screen on the Apple TV. You turn on mirroring by swiping up from the bottom to get into Control Strip. And in the bottom right, right now it says CIDER book. That's where my AirPlay option is. So right now I'm mirroring my screen from the iPad to the Apple TV that it thinks my computer is. So if you have an Apple TV, you watch stuff on your television with the Apple TV and the apps that it has, or you can take what's on your iDevice, photos, apps, web pages, and mirror that to your television. So it's a way of seeing what's on your iPad to your television.
So it's the same as Chromecast.
Yes, it's from Apple. Chromecast does the same thing for Google Chrome, and Amazon has one on with the Amazon Fire. And now that the Amazon Prime Video app has finally been released for Apple TV, we don't have to mirror from our iPads anymore. So that was the last big critical missing thing from the Apple TV was Amazon Prime Video. So now you can get an Apple TV, watch all your Apple stuff, watch your Amazon stuff, watch YouTube and Google stuff all in one Apple TV box, which lets you cut down on your cable bill by cutting back on the channels you're paying for. In fact, we talked about that on Soundbites. Let me see if I can find the link here. Next month, Spectrum is going to start scrambling cable channels below 100. Right now, they scramble above 100, and so you need a cable box. So if you have a television without a cable box, and you're just plugging the straight coax into the TV, that's the other thing. Plugging coax into the TV, that will stop working next month, and you'll have to rent a cable box from Time Warner. They have a cheap box, $6 a month, and you'll get channels below 100, or $15 a month, and you get all the channels above 100 too. So for a lot of people, that's going to raise your cable bill, and it's a way of raising your cable bill without raising your rate. Because to raise the cable rate, they have to ask the Public Service Commission. I might not be able to find that article offhand. So in many cases, you can put an antenna on your TV. Especially a lot of people have like a TV in the bedroom that they watch the morning news on while they're getting ready for work. You don't need to pay an extra $6 a month just to watch the morning news. So you pay $30 and buy an antenna. And watch broadcast high definition free television. Let's see, let me call it. It's called a DT. I spelled it wrong. A lot of people have been paying for a digital television adapter already. If you had an analog, no, stop autocorrecting. If you had an analog television, when broadcast switched from analog to digital, you might have needed to get a digital television converter so your old analog TV could work. But most TVs in the last 10 years or so have been digital and have a cable tuner built in. But now that Spectrum is going to start encrypting the cable, I said no autocorrect, and it did anyway. Now they're going to start encrypting the low channels. You're going to have to buy that cable box. On the good news from Spectrum, if you have Spectrum Internet, the 60 megabit plan is going to be jumping to 100 megabit. And if you have the 100 megabit plan, that's going to be jumping to 300 megabit. So if you're going to get faster internet for free, which is.
The up will stay the same.
Pardon?
The up will be the same.
The what?
The up speed.
No, that's upgrading too. It's the 100 is 5 and the 300 I think is 20. So your upload speed will also be increasing. By year end, they're saying. So you may already have it and not know. You may need to reboot your cable modem to get the new speeds if you have Spectrum internet. If you have Time Warner internet, you're still stuck at 20, and that's not going to change. So for a lot of people, you can save money and get better service by switching from Time Warner service to Spectrum service.
I thought you don't get switched automatically?
Nope. They
if your bill comes from Spectrum,
because the companies merged, the company is now Spectrum. The service is different. If you had Time Warner service and did not call them to change, you still have Time Warner service.
oh,
So you can call them and ask about the Spectrum packages. You may get a lower bill from Spectrum, and you'll definitely get better internet from Spectrum. Let's see what our speed here is, and it will tell us who the internet service here is too. There's an app called Speed Test, or there's a website, Speed Test, that will test your speed. So we're getting a little slow, 7. Well, and who knows how many other people are using the internet here.
I mean, a lot of times the big complaint when we're having classes, or even if people are just in here, this as many as us, or
Yep.
or even 4 people, I don't know. Sometimes the internet is just really slow in here for some reason. And then if you're taking a class and everybody has to go to the website,
Yep.
forget it.
So we were talking about that a little earlier. We're getting 7 here. So with 7 people, each person only gets 1. And with less than that, it can sometimes be worse. All right, so that was through CenturyLink. Let me see what speedof.me will tell us. So this is also a nice thing to run every now and then to make sure you're getting what you're paying for. So with Spectrum, it's different. What was interesting with Time Warner's, you were paying for 20, you'd barely get 10 in many cases, and so you're mad. With Spectrum, you pay for 60, and I constantly got 70, getting more than I'm paying for, and so that was nice. You're happy. So speedof.me is a website. It doesn't use Flash, which is nice. This time it went to Chicago, depending on what server you go to. I thought it told you who your internet provider was. I have another website that does that. We're using Paytech ISP, and the head end is in Buffalo. So that's part of the problem. So our internet wire has to go to Buffalo before it goes anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, just about out of time. Any last questions?
Is there another function in iOS that allows you to send things to and from different devices that are in the same area or on the same Wi-Fi?
There's the AirDrop service that lets you send stuff to other devices in close proximity.
Okay.
So say I want to send this web page, I'm going to hit I'm still on the iPad, so I'm going to hit the share sheet button, which is the square with the arrow pointing out of it in the upper right corner. I'm going to share that, and it gives me an option of where and how do I want to share it. So different ways to share it. One, and then the big one at the top is AirDrop. So if I tap on AirDrop, okay, I should see my computer. So I have AirDrop turned on the computer too. We set it to everyone. So in AirDrop, you have the ability to send to just contacts or accept stuff from everyone. And I just changed my computer to everyone. So why don't I see the airdrop here? It's turned, maybe it's not turned on. No, it is turned on. And then my computer doesn't see the iPad either. That's interesting. Bluetooth is on. It uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Either or both?
Bluetooth primarily, if I remember right, because you have to be in much closer proximity than you do for Wi-Fi. Let me turn mirroring off, and maybe that's what's affecting it. So on the computer, I'm in my AirDrop window. Let me go back to here, and I want to send a web page to AirDrop. Yeah, and I don't see anyone else locally. Bluetooth is on. Should be working. Don't see who you're looking for. Search for an older Mac. Let me search.
Shouldn't you be seeing all the iPads that are sitting there?
Yeah, I should be.
We don't have to do anything to do that, right? Because as long as we have Bluetooth on, you should.
Well, and AirDrop has to be turned on too in the control center, which is in the upper right corner. The swirly icon next to the airplane. So I'm going to say everyone. And I think I saw it pop on AirDrop. So I've got everyone set there. I've got everyone set on both devices, and I still don't see them. AirDrop has never worked very consistently for me. I was used to setting up file sharing and logging in back and forth. That was the usual way to do it. AirDrop was supposed to be an automatic way to drop things back and forth. But it doesn't want to work for me for some reason. Am I on the same Wi-Fi? Yeah, I'm on the same Wi-Fi. And
Are you recommending to have Bluetooth turned on iPad or not?
if you use Bluetooth services, for example, wireless headphones, then you usually do want to have Bluetooth turned on. If you don't need Bluetooth on, turn it off and it saves battery. But I am annoyed that AirDrop is not working for us. AirDrop is set to everyone on both devices. So I should be able to see everyone.
Where's that function? Where are you right now? Are you in your iPad or in
On the iPad. But you have to set it on both. In the iPad under settings, general, and then AirDrop. You can turn it off. Let me turn it off and back on again. I'll turn it off and then back on. And let me see if the computer sees it here. I'll turn it off and back on again. It should see it. I usually message myself. If I need to send something from the iPad to the computer, I'll message me. That tends to be much more consistent than AirDrop. And on the iPad, it's the same place. Oops. So hit the share sheet and then tap messages to send a message to myself. Ah, there we are. You're showing up now.
Yeah, I turned mine hadn't been turned on.
So why am I not seeing me? I should see me.
Now, at this point, if we wanted to share something, I would still have to do an acknowledge. You would send
Yes.
something and ask and say.
Yep. So to send this website, I'm going to tap on you, and now mine says waiting, and yours is going to say Steve's iPad wants to send you a file, and you can accept or reject.
Okay, and at that point I say, I have no idea what he sent me, so I don't.
Yep. And now mine says declined.
Okay, cool.
We were at a outdoor concert in Farrington a few months ago, and someone kept trying to send me photos. And my phone is called Steve's iPhone. So I had to turn off AirDrop, and then I hollered out, "Wrong Steve," and I don't know if they knew if they were sending to the right Steve or not.
So you didn't wind up with all the naked photos.
Yeah, so I should have accepted them, but
This has been an excellent session. They're all good, but this has been excellent. Thank you.
well, I can't play Pac-Man on the iPad. It wants a keyboard. I don't have a keyboard up. So this is archive.org. On the computer. We can play it. We were talking about earlier.
Because that's you can't get Pac-Man anymore. It's like gone.
It's long gone, but it's available at archive.org. But I can't play it on the iPad because it's designed to use a keyboard. Yeah. Pac-Man. Da, 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 da. No, I want to go to software.
They did quite nicely with that franchise.
Yep.
You think about all the standalone machines that they had for people pumping quarters into them. Yeah, I'm gonna say, it seemed like Bob had just put quarters into that thing and.
So what do these little things here mean? Like, because I was tapping them and
Mhm.
stuff, and I don't know what did I turn off. What's this for?
That's airplane mode.
Oh, okay, all right.
It turns off the radios, so
When you're on an
it's
airplane.
safe to use on an
So how
airplane.
do you
Yeah.
know when it's on or off?
The yellow is on.
So, okay, then this one is,
That's AirDrop,
okay, this one is.
Wi-Fi,
Okay, and this one?
Bluetooth.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. I just thought that and then, what's this little bell for? Which, I had this.
That's mute.
Okay, mute, meaning?
Muting the audio.
Okay, oh, okay. What about, like, I don't think I have my iPad set up to get dinged every time something comes in, because I don't want it.
That's notifications
Oh, okay.
in settings.
Oh, all right, okay. I don't like to hear those bells and whistles going off. I hear them on my husband's phone.
Bings and boops and dings and dongs.
It's just like,
Alrighty. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
And if you have questions between sessions, you can listen to sound bites on Jazz 90.1 FM, or we have a YouTube channel on Soundbites as well. And for Apple Cider, we have our YouTube channel for live streaming video if you can't come to meetings. And we have the previous meetings available as a live stream as well.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for coming. Happy holidays to everyone.
oh, yeah, you too.
And
You
we'll,
nice and cold over there?
No, it actually wasn't bad, but I did have a sweater on, so.
Well, yeah, I have, he's in his shirt sleeves,
Yeah.
I've got, 2 layers.